everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Entrepreneur's Inner Game podcast. I have a really big treat for you today. I've got a very special guest, Scott Oldford. Scott's work has been viewed by millions of entrepreneurs and has been featured online in Forbes, Inc., Success, Entrepreneur, Money Magazine, Fortune, Business Insider, and ABC. He lives in Northern California with his wife, Libby Crow, a fellow entrepreneur and podcast host of Behind the Dream and the long-haired dachshund, Cooper. Scott, welcome to the Entrepreneur's Inner Game podcast.
Thank you so much. Great to be here.
And I'm really excited to have you on the show because I know you're really big on mindset and you combine mindset with taking action to grow your business. And this is what this podcast is all about, getting your inner game into play so you can start taking big action around your business. So I just want to dive in. And I'm really keen to find out about your thinking because you have created many very successful businesses. You've sold them, and you're very young. I hope you don't mind me saying that. To have done so much, you achieved a lot.
You can say quickly. That all day long.
Okay, so what is it about you? What is it about your thinking that has enabled you to take big risks, play big, and be okay when things don't go according to plan? What is your thinking behind that has enabled you to do that?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think there's a lot of things. I think one of the advantages when you, now at least, I'm 28 now. I've scaled 10 of my own businesses past 7 figures. I've helped over 100 people do the same. I have the advantage now, and my advantage now is the fact that, I have so many data points and it doesn't really matter if I fail anymore. So now it doesn't matter as much, but I would say that like if I could put it to one thing that I look back on my life, and I had my first business when I was 7. I had $1 million business by the time I was 16. And my parents weren't entrepreneurs, weren't business owners, very middle class. Grew up in Newfoundland, Canada, like literally on 11 acres of land in pretty much isolation. I'd say it was. I didn't stop believing that anything was possible, and failure wasn't like, I didn't articulate failure as failure. I articulate it, when you have a kid and they go to walk, they fail a bunch before they figure out how to do it. If you give a kid, for example, and I'm not recommending that you give a kid an iPad, but if you give a kid an iPad and you tell them nothing about it, they'll figure it out. And they'll figure it out through failure. They'll figure it out through, oh, well, I can't turn it on that way. I can't turn it on this way. Oh, I can do that. Okay, now I got the screen open. What do I do next? And so I think a lot of the time, our schooling system, especially right now, and I think this is going to thankfully change over the next few years, our schooling system, it tries to get you to avoid failure and try to get, the good marks and try to avoid these I guess markers of failure so that you can get to success. And if you look at any successful entrepreneur, it's like they use their failures as like a data point of, oh, okay, I learned this little piece and I'm going to take that onto the next one and take that onto the next one. And so it's not failure. It's like an iterative approach to understand what works and what doesn't. And I think that's any of the people that I've helped become a millionaire, any of the people I've helped to create, multi-million-dollar companies, they have that adoption belief system where it's like, oh, that launch didn't go well. Well, now let me do the next one, or let me do it this way, or you know what, that business burnt me out. So let me recover and let's go back into it and let's do it a different way again. And so, I think it's also, my grandfather's in the hospital right now, unfortunately. And, he's had 5 heart attacks when he was 40. He's 80 now. When he was 41, the doctors only gave him 6 months to live. And he's 39 years. And I look at him and I'm like, wow, he's really resilient. And I have that same resilience. I was $1 million in debt by the time I was 21 years old. And I had that same resilience. And so I think it's not looking at your failures and being resilient and not adopting this belief system that just because something didn't work, that you're a failure.
And you said also believing anything is possible. Have you always believed that, or is that something that you've sort of evolved? Your thinking has evolved over time.
Yeah, I think that one's difficult for a lot of people because I just believed that my whole life. And I think it was my parents. My parents gave me a really good. My mother gave me a really, 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 really good baseline of hey, listen, I don't if you want to go and do whatever, I'll support you. My whole life, that was it. And she did. And so, I think I had incredibly supportive parents that were like, whatever you're into, we'll support. So I remember my father probably repairing my computer like 30 times because I messed it up because I kept on, trying this thing and that thing and everything else. I don't know how much money they spent at the computer repair shop. And so, I think I always had that belief pattern. And so if you go into mindset, you learn that that's difficult to learn once you're maybe, 30 years old or 35 years old. If you didn't believe that your entire life, you have to, really rewire the subconscious patterning that, when you're 16, you listen to a teacher, or when you're 19, you listen to your friend, or 24, you got, you didn't get the job you wanted, and, all these things. And so you sort of got to like reprogram. And I benefited greatly by, never really taking school too seriously, never taking other people too seriously, and just having like this inner compass of like, nah, I can do literally anything I want to do.
There's a freedom of that, isn't there?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like, it's the freedom of I can live any life I want to live, and I've always known that. And, I also think that there's almost a level of like disillusionedness that you have to have as an entrepreneur. And so, because I had to be a little bit delusional to, number one, get into $1 million of debt. Number two, think I could get out of $1 million of debt. And number three, actually get out of $1 million of debt and become a multimillionaire again. And it's a crazy journey being an entrepreneur, but it's like purely in the mind of, oh, I'm going to go do that, and doing what you say and being in integrity with what you say that you're going to do. And you just figure it out. And everyone's timeline is a little bit different. I've been doing this entrepreneur thing for like 20 years. So of course I'm good at it now. And of course I can go and start a company, and it gets to, a certain point now. Just like if Elon Musk created a new company, he could probably create $1 billion company in 90 days because he's done it 5 times or 6 times. So I think that's the important part.
And when has your mindset held you back? When have you felt that wall of resistance that you think, oh, that feels like a big step to take now?
I mean, a lot. I think there's a lot of, a lot of the issues that I see a lot of entrepreneurs have are around self-love, worthiness, deservance, upper limiting. I'm not going to say that I don't have that one. I still have that one. I still have the upper limiting one.
What's the upper limiting one? What do you mean by that?
Well, you like get to a certain level, and you're like, you start to sabotage yourself because you're comfortable at a certain level. Okay. So, or life gets so good that you're afraid. Like, it's like the phrase, like, how good can you take it? And so I think that a lot of the time that we have like a predetermined version of how good we can take it, how much money we can keep in our bank account without spending it. I mean, so many entrepreneurs that I meet, they make, when they met me, they're making $250,000 a year, and then they may start making $2.5 million a year, yet they have the same amount of money in their bank account. And I'm like, well, that's because you're afraid of having more money in the bank account, because you're afraid of what that means with your identity. And so, like, I've dealt with like really all of these different mindset challenges of, self-confidence and, self-worthiness, dating people that weren't at my level because I didn't think I was worthy for that. Being able to, I had to get over that in order to be able to, date and eventually marry my wife, Libby. There's so many things that happen, and it's like, you never end up, there's not a single day. The day that you say, you know what, I got the mindset I need, that you're ready to level up, and then like a whole other level of mindset things come up, and so like, I'll give you an example of like, right now, one of the mindset things I'm going through, there's an upper limiting of, I have this like weird thing where like I'm having a hard time working out right now. And not because of energy, not because of anything else, but because like life is so good, right? My relationship's so good. Business is so good. My lifestyle's so good. Only work 20 hours a week. I run a multi-million-dollar company with only 2 team members. Like, life is amazing. And there's like this piece of me that's like, oh, well, I can't have it all. And so that, that's just something that it's been on my mind just in the past week, that now I've brought just attention to recently in the last couple of days. And I'm like, oh, okay. I'm self-sabotaging myself. Like, no, like I used to be 300 plus pounds. Like, I'm in good physical shape, but like there's that next level that I know I can achieve and I want to achieve. And there's like that saboteur inside of me that's like, oh, well, I can't have everything perfect.
That's really great awareness. That's going on there. So
Yeah.
when you've been in that comfortable level, and there's a next step up, but there's it seems like there's a resistance taking that next step up. How do you break through that resistance when things are pretty good where you are already? How do you get there, make yourself do that extra activity, as it were?
Well, you either if you know something is a problem and you don't actually start working on it, you become out of alignment, and life becomes really, really not fun when you're out of alignment. Like really not fun. Like, the universe starts like conspiring for you to have that change versus conspiring for you. Right. So it's just like, it's conspiring for you, but now it's going to, it'll whisper, and then it'll tap you on the shoulder, and then it'll start shouting at you, and then it'll slap you in the face, and then it'll put you right down on your face, right, if you let it. And so, my mentality is like, when there's something and I know there's something, it's like, all right, let's go in and figure out what it is consciously, figure out what it is subconsciously. This is places where, everything from breath work to hypnotherapy to therapy to all the different modalities of evolution are very, 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 very effective. And there's almost like this like lack of, if you really want to evolve, you got to have to like let your ego and let your identity kind of subside and be like, okay, you know what, whatever I was yesterday isn't what it is today, which is also difficult when you have an online personality and an online identity, because it's like, wow, there's that version, and now my version's completely different today than it was yesterday. And so now there's an incongruence between what's online and what's offline, and you have to just realize that sometimes the person that is online, the online identity, especially for us that have personal brands, like that is a character that is being played, and that doesn't mean it's not authentic and not inauthentic. It's just the fact that if you are always trying to be the online version the way that you are in person, or the way you are with yourself, you're always going to have this incongruence, and always going to have this you're going to bring back or slow down your evolution, versus allowing that character to be that person, and to allow that to build your business and whatever it might be, and then you are you.
Yeah. So, that's tough, isn't it, when there's that incongruency?
Well, yeah, and I think it's Osho says, in one of his really good, I can't remember what book it was. I think it might have been in the book Intimacy. But Osho says that you should never share. You shouldn't share 100% of yourself. There needs to be some for yourself. And so, to share 50% of you, not to hide it, and not with the intention to hide it, but with the intention of allowing you to have intimacy with yourself. And so I think a lot of the time people have that hard time of like, what do I share and what do I not share? And oh, wow, I just had this big evolution, and now my online brand isn't what I think it is. And so I work with a lot of influencers, a lot of people that have, big online personalities, and they struggle. Almost everybody struggles with this. And everybody's like, oh, well, I want to evolve, but now it's no longer in alignment with that identity. So back to your question. Overall, it's like you just got to dive in the deep end and be like, let's do this, and let's cry the tears, let's do the work, and let's not try to delay it and allow it to be messy when it needs to be messy. That's the best advice that I can tell anybody is let it happen.
Let it happen rather than holding back. So, in your entrepreneurial journey, did you always know that the mindset bit was a big part of it, or is it something that you turned to later on?
Yeah, no, not at all. I don't think I really understood that until about 2017, to be honest. Yeah, about 2017. I knew it had a portion, but it wasn't something I worked on until like 2017 onwards. And then I went really deep into it. And then I'm like, okay, cool. Well, this is what actually matters. It's like people are like, 9%. Most of the people spend 90% of the time on strategies and tactics, but really it's 90% marketing, or sorry, 90% mindset, 9% strategy, 1% tactics. And that's really because it's like, if you can't make a sale, it's not because you don't know the sales process. If you can't have a marketing funnel that works, it's not because the marketing funnel is broken. It's because you're not portraying your energy the right way. If you can't keep money in the bank account, it has nothing to do with your finances or the way that you do your finances. It's to do with the fact that every single time that you get money, you want to go spend it on something because you don't feel worthy of keeping it. So every single thing, I have this 6 pillars of business. My book, The Nuclear Effect, that's coming out in June, talks about this. This is literally what it talks about. There's a pillar of, marketing, mindset, sales, operations / team, delivery, and finances. And so those 5 of 6, every one of those pillars come down to your mindset being in the right way, right? And so, if you don't love yourself, you're always going to sabotage your business because your business is a reflection of you. So you can't love something that's a reflection of you if you don't love yourself. If you don't trust yourself, then you can't trust others, which means that you're never going to be able to trust a team, which is why most people are going to be overworked. They can't delegate, they can't outsource. So everything comes back to mindset. And that's why I also started Rewired, which is a mindset company for entrepreneurs, because I looked at it and I'm like, and I'm having more success in that company than I've had almost in every other company I've had that have helped entrepreneurs. Yet I'm not sharing anything about strategies and tactics. It's purely a mindset company. And so that's really it's like I've helped so many people scale, and it's been almost always the mindset of scaling, not the nothing else really. People think it's everything else. I sell marketing and sales all day long, but when it really comes to it, it's like the way that you think about something determines how that thing actually works. And so it's not that you're one funnel away or one marketing funnel or one a webinar away. You're a couple of mind shifts away from being able to do what you need to do, but you're stopping yourself from doing.
Yeah, you can literally be one thought away. And we tend to think it's all the stuff out there that's causing us to feel like that, but actually it's all the stuff inside of us. So you said that in 2017 that you started, getting into mindset deeply. Why? What happened then? Why was there that pivot for you?
I started making. So in 2017, I was doing $300,000-$400,000 a month in revenue, and the more money I made, the more unfulfilled I got, right? And so like so much my happiness. I've been very happy my whole life. So happiness was, but the fulfillment level and that stuff, that was a problem. That was a problem. And so eventually I was like, I'm going to blow this business up. So I killed the business. I went nomadic. I was living in Toronto, Canada at the time. And I was like, I'm just going to travel the world, and I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to figure out what's going on. And then 3 weeks later, I met Libby, my now wife, in Venice Beach while I was visiting California. And that kind of stopped me in my tracks. And so I was supposed to go to South America, and none of the rest of my trip happened. And so I just literally rented a house in Malibu and was like, well, I'm going to get to know this girl. And then, 6 months later, we ended up being married. And so I think meeting Libby was the starting point, not to realize that it was all to do with entrepreneurship. It was actually to do with the fact that I knew I needed to be a different version of me. I needed to know that I was going to be the evolved version of me in order for me to really be with her. And that's really what started that path of my own journey. And then I had so much change in myself that I was like, oh, well, this is obviously not isolated. This is obviously, this is everybody. This is not just me. This is everybody.
And what impact did all of that have on your businesses and how you showed up in your businesses?
Well, it allowed me to grow my first 8-figure business. So, I mean, that's cool. But, I think more than anything else, I built that, sold that, shut down the other part of it. But, all of the work allowed me to come into what I really wanted to do. I built that company, not really because I wanted to build the company, to be honest with you. I just built that because I thought that that's what I was supposed to do next. My ego sort of like got me to do that. Right. And so, from there, it really, formatted into me going from having 44 team members to now having two, and, having a multi-million dollar, coaching consulting business that I work 20 hours a week. I basically invented my current, not my future, but my current dream life based on what I actually wanted instead of what my ego wanted or what, I thought other people might want. Or looking around and being like, well, everyone's building an 8-figure business, so I might as well go. All my friends are building 8-figure businesses, so I might as well go and do that. And then realizing that that's not my path right now, and really being able to come into my intuition and being guided by my intuition and what I really needed to do from an intuition perspective instead of what the cool thing is to do or what everybody else thinks they want to do. So that was out of just peace and flow and joy and fun and all the things that maybe aren't associated with business most of the time.
Absolutely. And it's interesting. I had a call with a client today, and her limiting belief was, if I become more successful, I'll lose more of my freedom. So you have a very successful company. You've got 2 employees, and you work 20 hours a week. So it seems like you've got plenty of freedom. What is it? How have you managed to do that? Because most people think, well, when I grow a company, I'm going to have a bigger team. That means I'm going to be working longer hours, taking care of everything. And I don't want a complicated life. How do you have that success and keep it simple?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of the time people hire a lot more people than they need to hire. They get into this frenzy of outsourcing everything. I think, listen, I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm in a very, very unique position. Most people in the world cannot do what I do. Most people don't have 20 years of experience. Number one, and number two, 40 minutes of my time can literally change anyone's life. I'm not saying that isn't the case for if you're listening to this, but people have very tangible results with literally 40 minutes of my time. And so I think, I think it's there might be a period where you might need to work more, but are you cool working more so you can have a life of freedom in a couple of years from now? And so, in 2015, 2016, I worked 60, 70 hour weeks. I'll be straight up about that. 2017, maybe 30 hours a week. 2018, I built a $10 million company working 25 hours a week. I think you just got to have I think a lot of it is valuing yourself, setting really great boundaries, and realizing that the time that you have is not equivalent. If you have someone that's checking your email or somebody that's doing your operations, 1 hour of their time, you could do what it takes them an hour and maybe 5 minutes, right? Mastery creates a different way of looking at time, right? Time's not the way that we actually look at it. It's I can literally work 20 hours and it's the same as somebody working 80 hours because I have mastery on something. I know exactly how something's going to work. So on the way to getting that mastery, you're going to have to put in the work. Absolutely. I'm not discounting that. Do you have the hustle? No. Do you have to I think the other side of it is when you're intuitively guided, when you allow your intuition to guide you, you step away from all the mistakes and all the work that you think you need to do instead of the work you actually do. Most people that I meet that are in the hustle mentality work 14 hours a day and 5 hours. They could have worked 5 hours and they could have got the exact same result done. But instead they're looking at this guru and this content and that content, all these different people. They're telling all the different things they should do and they're doing all of it instead of just actually doing what their gut. The easiest way to know what you should do is just ask yourself the question, what funnel should I build? Boom, that exact answer that happens exactly right in that moment is what you should do. And if that says no marketing funnel, that's the answer. And so unfortunately, we have an entire society trying to listen to people like me on telling them what they should do based on what their success pattern was. And the honest truth is you're going to have your own success pattern. and it's not going to be like anybody else's.
Yeah, so follow your gut and just don't do what other people are telling you to do.
I mean,
It doesn't feel right for you.
It sounds crazy, but it's the honest truth. Like, it sounds nuts, but like, I think one of the biggest problems that I see on a daily basis is that people are not following their gut. They're following some guru. They're following somebody that like is just not their path in this world. And so then, essentially what ends up happening is that you build a business you don't enjoy. Like, you might not enjoy the business I have, right? So people might not want that, even if you were making a bunch of money. So you got to like build a business based on what your customers need, what you need, what your family needs, and what your soul needs. And your intuition knows what that looks like.
Yeah. Yeah. And I found out the hard way that if I do marketing that I don't like, then there's just resistance. I need to do marketing that I enjoy doing, that I know that I'm going to really have fun doing.
Most people don't actually need a marketing funnel. They just need to share their brilliance and help people. And they'll I'm not saying you can build a multi-million-dollar business that way. I'm just saying most people don't want a multi-million-dollar business. Like, they might think they want a multi-million, they don't want a multi-million-dollar business. Like, most people want to make a couple $100,000 profit a year. And that gives them the freedom to basically do what they want to do. And yet you got people like me trying to convince them that they need a 7-figure business. And you know what? Lots of people do. Most people don't. Most people, especially if you're like a coach or a consultant, like if you're not really, really, really deeply an entrepreneur, like, and you really don't get off on like being an entrepreneur, like I love being an entrepreneur. But if you're really like, you just love helping people like one-on-one, or really love just helping people transform those breakthroughs, there's so many people that are trying to build businesses that they don't want to build. They just, some guy like me on their news feed convinced them one day and they didn't realize it.
Yeah, they feel they should be rather than doing it out of love and joy.
Yeah.
Scott, how can our listeners and our viewers find out more about you and the amazing work that you do?
You just Google me, Scott Oldford, and then, take it from there. There's all the, go on my website, and then all my wonderful methodologies and frameworks and things are all from there. And I think you'll get a lot of value out of it, a lot of like understanding.
Yeah. And if you haven't joined Scott's email list, I would highly recommend it, because he writes so much great stuff about mindset. And I find myself nodding along while I'm reading your emails. So I would highly recommend his emails.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And Scott, thank you so much for being here. I knew I was going to enjoy the conversation. It's been an absolute blast. And I'm just sorry that we've run out of time. And for everyone who's been here and joined us today, thank you so much for being here. Till next time. Bye-bye for now.